I did this for years as I was learning, and it is one of the best things that I did to improve my tracks. I would take my favorite producer's tracks, throw them in my DAW, and use tools and these two techniques to strip away parts of the tracks and effectively steal things like the bass line or the drums, so that I could properly analyze it and focus on exactly what those professional artists were doing, so that I could teach myself and learn how to produce what they were doing in those tracks. This is a powerful way to analyze these tracks because you're focusing only on the individual layers and you're not listening to the whole mix at the same time, allowing you to really focus on the details. I say steal, but obviously I don't mean actually stealing them. You're not using them in your own tracks, or you shouldn't be redistributing them. This is only for analyzing them and learning what they did so that you can apply that to your own music. Kind of like a backstage pass to the layers and stems of these tracks that are already professionally mixed and mastered. I'm going to show you two ways to do this, and I'm going to highlight the pros and cons of each and figure out which one is best for you. Make sure to subscribe. Let's get started. This is the track that I'm going to be working on in this video. Full sounding track. We have lots of percussion, bass, layers of vocal, lots going on. So this is why it's a great example of using this technique to dial in on the specific areas of the track. You can actually download this full project on my Patreon. I'll put a link in the description as well as the card up here. It will work Ableton 10 and up. First thing I'm going to do is grab an EQ and throw that onto my master channel. I already have a utility, just adding a little bit of gain, and these left and right EQ, I'm going to explain those in just a minute. The first is the most obvious thing to do, and that's to EQ out the area that you don't want in the track. So if I want to focus on my drums, I can EQ out the majority of the mids and lows to focus on that. So I want to grab just the drums, but more specifically, I want to hear just the hi-hats of this track. So I'm going to EQ out a lot of the low end, but then I'm going to add in the left and right and the utility, and we're going to take a look at that in real time. So I've exported this track. I'm just using audio just to show you what you would be doing if this was a different track. Exact same as the project file. And on this EQ, I'm going to cut out all the lows. We're aiming for where the drums start to feel like they're thinning out a little bit and then backing off about 10%, which is about here. Obviously, this is a really busy part of the mix, so why don't I just move on to a different part like the intro or the outro where it's mostly just drums. So go to the very beginning. Much better. And if I want to focus specifically on the hi-hats, I'm going to go up a little bit higher. And I'm starting to hear that the hi-hats are thinning out a little bit. I don't want to cut off more than that, otherwise they're going to sound just really crispy and thin. And that's not really helpful. I want to focus on that whole hi-hat, which can be difficult if there's other instruments playing. That's why it's so important to EQ carefully here, but these other tips are going to help as well with that. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'll add in a second high pass here. Really cut out all below there. And now I can hear really the hi-hat specifically. So I can really focus on those hi-hats now, and I can listen and learn from them. What are the hi-hats doing? What is the velocity of the hi-hats? How hard are they hitting? What does the sample sound like? What is the panning like? And by learning from this, I can apply this to my own tracks and then benefit from that. So I'm going to turn on this left and right now. And this is going to actually allow us to hear only the left or the right side of the mix. And this is very valuable because if there's certain elements that are only in the left or in the right, or slightly to the left or slightly to the right, it allows us to hear them a bit clearer by eliminating the other sound. So I can turn on the left. And this is the way that I set this up, is I put it into left-right mode, and then I just brought the right all the way up, and on the right, I brought the left all the way up, eliminating those in each of these. And I just set them up so that when I press L, it'll turn on and off the left, and right will turn on and off the right. Lastly, I'm going to put this in mono, and what this does is actually eliminates any of the stereo imaging that's out of phase. So reverb specifically can put things out of phase, which makes it sound wider, but if we get rid of that reverberated sound or clean up some of the stereo imaging and put it into mono, it's easier to hear the core sound because it's in mono. But because it's in mono, it kind of brings everything from left to right into the middle, and therefore it can get a little bit muddy. And that's why this left and right technique is so effective, because you're eliminating the left or the right and only focusing on one side. So let's back off the EQ a little bit and let's listen to the rest of the drums. And now I'm going to do left and right signal only so we can pick up on what's in the left versus what's in the right. I want you to really focus on the individual left and right channels and see if you can pick up on a couple instruments that are only in the left and a couple instruments that are only in the right. This is a very valuable practice. So if you don't get it right away, rewind the video and watch again to see if you can pick up on a couple individual elements. This is really good for your ear training to be able to pick up those different instruments so that you can learn how to apply this in your own music. Let's quickly do an example on the low end now. You want to focus on the kick, the sub, the bass, and the mid bass. So let's turn off this. I'm going to grab the EQ, bring it back down to here, and turn on a low pass filter, and bring that down until we're hearing only up to the mid bass. I'm going to add in another EQ, and on this one, I'm going to turn on the mid-side mode and cut out everything that's in mono and only focus on the stereo image. Because bass is mostly in mono, if I turn this into the stereo image, likely only grab some of the mid frequencies that might be adding in these extra little groovy one-shot bass. By eliminating the mids, I'm only hearing the stereo image, and that's usually where the mid bass sits, and sometimes you can get these extra details that are hard to hear in the full mix. Now let's put it fully in mono and just focus on the kick and bass relationship. And this is so important that we want to be paying attention to the kick and the bass to hear how they work together and to really focus on the actual groove compared to what the mids are bringing. So if I go back and forth between the lows and the mids, we'll hear that sometimes the sub frequencies, the sub bass line is actually different than the mids because you might be using the mid bass as a sort of groove element, and the sub bass will be under a different groove. It might be hard to pick apart, but the sub bass is actually quite different than the mid bass. The mid has more hits and more punchiness, and then the sub has a bit more of a strong groove that's a little bit more consistent. This is how you get really professional bass lines. I actually cover a lot of this in my 20+ bass lines video. I'll put a link to that up in the corner so you can watch that after. If you can find a place without the kick in the reference track, you can actually listen to what the bass is doing. And this is where it's very obvious that the sub and the mid are very different. Pros and cons to technique number one. It's pretty easy to do, it's pretty fast, but it doesn't have the best quality if the track is a little bit busier. So that's why we're going to use technique number two, which is going to push this a little bit further and get us even cleaner layers and stems. For technique number two, we're going to be using a website that's basically going to do what I just did, but it's going to do it a lot faster and a lot better. And it's currently free to use. So this is lalal.ai. I've talked about this on the channel before. We're going to go into the stem splitter, which is going to extract the different parts of the track, going to select the file that I want, which is going to be that track that I just did. So now upload the track. I've chosen drums so that it's going to focus on those drums. If you have a paid account, which I do, but I'm using the free one just to show you what is actually going on, what it looks like for you. And if you have the paid account, you can do all of them all at once, but this is going to focus on the drums first, and then it's going to give me previews of what it sounds like. And if I like it, I can download it. If I don't like it, I can try again, and it's not going to take away time until I download it. So right here, we have the drums. I can just solo those. It's just got the drums here. If I go down to where it says without drums, we can turn that one on and turn the drum bus off. And check this out. It mostly grabbed the vocal and some of the bass top elements, which is really cool. So we can actually extract an acapella. This is just grabbing the drums and then grabbing everything else and putting it into a different channel. I can actually choose to grab just the voice, and then I can create new previews. Again, this is just the free version. The paid version will have them all created already for you. So now we have just the vocal. which is super cool. It just extracted that a cappella, and this track was very busy. So the fact it got this much of the vocal without sounding like it took much of the quality away is pretty impressive. If you use the track that's less busy, it's gonna sound even better. And then on here, we have the rest of the track. So it kind of like made a dub version of the track, basically. The vocal should be here. So if you want to get rid of a vocal in a track, you can also use this. Lastly, we're going to try this on the bass, create new previews. Friendly reminder, you can download this project file in the link in the description below. There's tons of other project files you can download, sample packs, checklists, some videos I don't even upload to YouTube that are only on my Patreon. Okay, now this is ready. We can listen to just the bass now. And then without the bass. Super cool. It literally extracted the bass and left everything else in the track. The vocals, the drums, the synths, everything is in the without bass section, and then the bass is just here. So you can extract parts of your favorite tracks this way. And like I said, this is free. You can grab this bass line, you can grab the drums or vocals or whatever you want to grab, throw it in your DAW and analyze it and learn from it. You can choose all these different stems. So I'll click split in full, and then it's splitting the entire file, and then you just download the different files here. So you'll have the bass and then without the bass in 2 different stems. They have some other stuff here: voice cleaner, changer, voice cloner. There's even an echo and reverb remover. So this will actually remove the echo and reverb from like vocals or vocal recordings. A lot of us, if we don't have professional recording studios, you can record your own voice and use an echo and reverb remover to clean up that. I'll probably try it for this video because I'm clearly not in my studio right now. I'm on the road, so I'm going to use this. A link to this will be in the description below. It doesn't hurt to try it out. See if it works for you. The pros are that it's considerably higher quality than technique number 1. It works for any skill level, and you can actually make acapellas, which is really awesome because you can't do that with the technique number 1. Cons is that the first 10 minutes is only free, and it's the downloaded 10 minutes, not just the upload 10 minutes. You only use what you download. And if you want to sign up, it's €7 per month and you get unlimited time. So that's a pretty sweet deal. One thing I noticed is that when I did the drum stems, sometimes it would grab the top parts of my bass if I had like a really percussive bass. So you just might need to EQ some of the low end out and try to eliminate those bass frequencies, and then it should be fine when you're extracting your stems. Now that you can analyze your own drums so much better now, you should write your own drum loops. And I have a great video that outlines how to make deep progressive house drums like a professional, and I'll put that right here. You should definitely go watch that video next, or watch something that YouTube thinks you'll like right here.